Hi there. I'm here just to get this out. I've been going through therapy for what's happened to me over the last few years, and I've been told that writing out my feelings will help. So here I am. I started dating my first real girlfriend during COVID in 2020. I'll call her Sonia. We actually met at the grocery store because I held the door open for her. It was a small act of kindness, but it led to a brief conversation about the challenges of grocery shopping during the pandemic. And not even challenges of grocery shopping, but just life in general, as most of know. Her smile was warm and her eyes sparkled with a kind of light that made the gray, stressful atmosphere of that time feel a little brighter. I say real because it really was my first serious relationship. Back in 2020, I was a young sprout of 23. Sonia was a couple of years older than me and working as a nurse. Her dedication and passion for her job were evident from the start, and it was one of the things I admired most about her. Despite the chaos of the pandemic, she always found time to listen to my worries and offer comfort. Her empathy and strength were like a rock I could cling to amidst the storm. It was honestly one of the worst times, but she made life feel good and bright, if that makes sense. We both weren't alone. We had each other. We watched each other hit rock bottom, me losing a job, her dealing with work at the time. But we had each other. She had this infectious enthusiasm for life that drew me in. Whether we were talking about our favorite books, sharing music, or just walking in the park, she made everything feel special. I fell in love with her kindness, her intelligence, and the way she could make even the most mundane moments feel magical. She had a quirky sense of humor that never failed to make me laugh, even on my worst days. She had this incredible ability to make me feel seen and understood, in a way no one else ever had. And here I am today, still trying to process everything that happened between us and where things went wrong. It comes in waves. Writing this down is supposed to help, and maybe it will. At the very least, it's a chance to remember the good times and honor what we had. So it sort of started right before our year anniversary. She came home from work one night and I had this awful gut feeling that I've never felt before. The energy between us was all off. She was supposed to come over after work but tried to bail. She had come from work totally exhausted before and had bailed on me other days because of the hard days at the hospital, which I totally understood. But that day just felt different. Normally, when Sonia was too tired to see me, she'd still call or text with her usual warmth, apologizing and promising to make it up to me. But that evening, her messages were short, almost cold. And when I insisted on seeing her, she reluctantly agreed. And it had sort of been like that the entire week. When she arrived, she looked more than just tired. She seemed distant, like her mind was a million miles away and she wasn't telling me something. Her usual smile was missing, replaced by a forced, almost robotic expression. We sat down for dinner that I had made for us, but the conversation was strained. Sonia barely spoke. I tried to lighten the mood, bringing up our favorite inside jokes and shared memories, but nothing seemed to reach her. As the night wore on, my anxiety grew. I kept asking myself if I had done something wrong or if something had happened at work until I couldn't take it anymore and gently confronted her, asking if everything was okay. She sighed deeply, avoiding my gaze, and told me she was just really tired and stressed from work. But her words felt hollow and lacked sincerity. For the first time in our relationship, I felt a pang of insecurity, wondering if there was something she wasn't telling me. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. Was she unhappy with me? Was there someone else? The uncertainty gnawed at me, and I struggled to push those thoughts aside, trying to convince myself that I was overreacting. That night, as we lay in bed, the distance between us felt like an insurmountable chasm. She fell asleep quickly, but I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. I can't really explain the feeling. It felt more intuitive than anything. I'm sure some of you have experienced this before. I know it was probably wrong to go through her phone, but I honestly had to know. Even if nothing was really wrong, I had to just squash it. I'm ashamed to admit that I went through her phone. I stumbled upon a thread of messages with a name I didn't recognize. My heart sank as I read through them. I don't know what I initially thought I would find, but a part of me really hoped that I wouldn't come across anything like that. There were flirty texts, s-ing, late-night conversations, and multiple plans to meet up. My worst fears were being confirmed right before my eyes. As I dug deeper, I found more messages with other men, revealing that she had been cheating on me for what seemed like our entire relationship. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The woman I loved, the one I thought I knew so well, had been living a double life. Every memory we had together now felt tainted, every moment of happiness a cruel joke. I felt a surge of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak all at once. I couldn't breathe, my chest tightening as I tried to process the enormity of what I had discovered. I called my brother in tears in the morning. I confronted her and I was instantly met with crocodile tears, I'm sorry, and manipulation by threatening self-harm. She played the victim card hard and, me being young and dumb, fell for it. Eventually I caved. She brought up this idea of having an open relationship. I wasn't ready to let her go just yet. I blamed myself and apologized for not being good enough for her to want to stay with one man. At the time, she let me take the fall. I told her I'd be a better man. I tried the open relationship thing, but I didn't meet with any other women. It was mostly just her speaking to guys and claiming that she wasn't speaking to the same guy that she had been cheating on me with. There were times that she wanted to bring a third person into the bedroom with us, and in fear of her leaving me, I agreed. But the kicker is, she didn't want it to be a female. She only wanted male third parties. Like a fool, I agreed. It was about 6 months of that, and I asked her to move in with me because I couldn't trust her. We spoke about getting married and starting a poly relationship. I had entertained it for a little bit. But I thought that by living together, I might be able to control something in our relationship. But I quickly realized that was a naive hope. She started asking if other people could move in with us, pushing the boundaries even further. I resisted. I didn't want our home to become a revolving door of strangers. Despite my attempts to set limits, I felt increasingly powerless in my own relationship. She starts having sex with her other partners and turns me down more and more. We have very little sex. Another year passed of this twisted arrangement, and finally something shifted in me. I got angry. And started resenting her. I became really bitter and cold. I couldn't believe that this woman I loved had hurt me so badly. The pain and betrayal festered inside me until it transformed into a dark desire for revenge. I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine. I went out and met women, bringing them home and asking Sonia if we could have threesomes. She got mad at me for even asking, which was the height of hypocrisy considering what she had put me through. I made sure she saw the flirtatious texts and provocative pictures on my phone. I'd come home late, smelling of perfume, and wouldn't offer any explanations. I wouldn't tell her who I was with, even though it had been one of our rules. I wanted her to feel the same paranoia and heartbreak I had endured for so long. Seeing her anger felt like a twisted vindication, but it didn't bring the satisfaction I had hoped for. Instead, it just deepened my sense of loss and disillusionment. The woman I had once loved and admired had become a source of pain and resentment. The relationship that had once brought me so much joy was now a toxic cycle of betrayal and retaliation. The whole thing was really ruining every aspect of my life. I hardly saw my family anymore because I was ashamed. When I did see them, they complained that they didn't even know who I was anymore. My brother mentioned how unhappy and sad I looked. Finally, one day in 2023, I woke up and wondered to myself, what the hell am I doing? Who even am I? I didn't recognize the person I had become. Sonia and I were now basically just roommates. We weren't sleeping in the same bed anymore. Our paths hardly crossed. One of these women that I had started seeing in attempts to make Sonia jealous was actually falling in love with me, but I was just trying to keep it purely physical. I didn't want to hurt people like Sonia was hurting me, so I broke it off. At this point, I told Sonia that I couldn't do this anymore and I'm just wasting my life away with this soul sucker who cheats on me right in front of my eyes. I asked her to move out. Which wasn't easy. At first she straight up refused to accept it. She said she wasn't moving out. And I said if she wasn't leaving that I was going to pack up her stuff for her and leave it all on the lawn. She told me that I was throwing everything away. She said that I couldn't just kick her out because it was our place, and I said that it was actually my place and she's being the worst roommate I've ever had. Then the floodgates opened and I told her that she was an evil person who just wanted to hurt me, and I've been a dead man walking since I first discovered she cheated on me. She told me I was being dramatic, and she said that this whole life takes two people. She said that I knew what I was getting into the moment I agreed to the open relationship. She said that I could have said no at any moment, and then she called me a weak little boy and she told me that I was a quitter and I'm just giving up. And I said that she was the one that gave up the moment she decided to cheat on me and continue to cheat on me. I said that I tried to make it work and the argument escalated from there. She accused me of being selfish and unreasonable, of abandoning our relationship without trying hard enough to fix it. I countered by listing all the ways she had hurt me, the countless nights I spent agonizing over her betrayals, the times I had swallowed my pride and pain to keep us together. From there I just started picking up her stuff and carrying it out onto the lawn. Even the tiniest of things that I knew she had bought, like planters, pots and bottles of wine. Anything that was hers I just wanted out of there. She started yelling at me and pushing me. At one point she tried to be physical with me and I had to lock her out of the house. She had called one of her partners and then it only escalated from there. The police got involved. Basically her partner and I got physical. I was defending myself and I bled all over my front porch. I ended up charging him and he spent a few nights in jail. Sonia tried to come back the next day and was sobbing and trying to apologize. She asked me where she was supposed to go and I told her that she can go to any of the other partners that she has, or friends, or family. I straight up told her that I was done. She was hysterical. I told her that I can't keep living like this. She continued to resist, making every excuse to delay the inevitable. She played on my emotions, reminding me of the good times, the plans we had made for the future. I told her she had to pack her stuff and I didn't want to see her again. I said I'd help her pack up her stuff and load it up into a vehicle and that it had to be out by the end of the day. The reality of the situation began to sink in for her. After hours of back and forth and tears and vomit, yes, she puked from hyperventilating, she finally caved, though it was clear she was far from accepting it. As I was moving stuff outside, she said, "I hope you know what you're doing." And I told that it was something I should have done a long time ago. My brother and his wife ended up coming over and helping, and just for moral support, and I appreciate the fuck out of them for that. As she drove away for the last time, I felt a tumult of emotions. There was relief in reclaiming my space in my life, but also a profound sadness for the love that had been lost and the future that would never be. After that I blocked her on my phone and over socials, and it may be dramatic but I burned whatever she had left, practically anything that would remind me of her was gone. This first real relationship turned out to be a painful experience, one that shattered my naive expectations of love. The betrayal and heartache taught me more about myself and the complexities of relationships than I could have ever imagined. It was a bad first relationship. No doubt about it. I learned the hard way about the importance of trust, communication, and self-respect. Despite the pain, it also taught me to recognize my own worth and the necessity of setting boundaries. It showed me that true love shouldn't come at the cost of my own happiness and well-being. In the end, this experience shaped me. It made me more aware of what I need and deserve in a relationship. It was a harsh lesson, but one that ultimately made me stronger and more prepared for future relationships. If it's any consolation, I heard from one of our friends that Sonia had been let go from her role at the hospital because she had been severely underperforming. Some of her colleagues had been complaining about her. I guess I wasn't the only one who had issues with her and trusting her. Apparently she had been stealing medication for some of her partners and not filling out patient charts properly. Last I heard, hospital administrators are reportedly conducting an internal investigation to assess the impact of Sonia's conduct on patient care and workplace dynamics. Anyways, thanks for reading this. If I can offer any advice after all of this, it's if something feels off in your relationship, don't ignore it. Trust your gut instincts and address any concerns you have with your partner. Don't settle for less than you deserve. You deserve to be with someone who respects and values you, who is faithful and committed to building a healthy, loving relationship. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, a relationship may not be healthy or fulfilling. Don't be afraid to walk away if it's no longer serving you or bringing you happiness. Remember, it's okay to prioritize your own happiness and well-being. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Sister chose wedding venue my husband's wheelchair can't access and called him a cripple at Mother's Day lunch. So I'm cutting her off, but my parents are blaming my pregnancy hormones. I, F, 36, have been married to my husband Brett, M, 40, for the last 6 years. I have a daughter, F, 10, from a previous relationship. We were engaged when he abandoned me when I was pregnant to be with his co-worker and eventually disappeared. Brad loves and adores my daughter and my daughter loves him so much. I'm currently pregnant with our first baby, my second baby. Brad is a paraplegic. He was in a car accident when he was 21. He has since his accident went back to school and currently works as university professor. He is super independent and possibly the best man I could ever marry. My sister is getting married and today she announced that the venue she picked is a heritage building. I told her then it won't be wheelchair accessible. She rolled her eyes and said the world doesn't revolve around Brad, it's not his day. It's mine. I said I understand but I'm not leaving him behind then. She started screaming that I'm trying to steal attention because everyone will ask where's Bride's sister. Her fiancé suggested having the ceremony at the Heritage Building but have the reception at another venue, that way Brad can join us. My sister said no. I talked to Brad, he thinks I should go and he and my daughter can have daddy/daughter date and he will take care of her. It's a child-free wedding and we were initially going to ask Brad's mom to watch my daughter. He thinks it's not a big deal and I should just go and enjoy the wedding. I feel very bad and don't want to go but my sister will be so upset. Ada, if I don't go to my sister's wedding because she is excluding my husband? Comments, still_actuator_8316, do what feels right to you. I can see you love your husband very much. And you have every right to be mad that your sister wants to exclude him. And serious. How hard is it to rent a temporary ramp to be put in place so he can go? But since I don't know the stair situation I can give a pass about that. But there are options. Oop, it's an old heritage building with lots of stairs unfortunately. I feel really bad for my husband TBH. Blue furniture, I like the idea of the dad and daughter day. Are you in the wedding party? How does the heritage building get away with skirting ADA laws? Your sister is awful and at least the fiancé is empathetic. Don't be surprised if there is no wedding. Oop, I'm not in the wedding party. Sadly it's 2024 and we still don't have something like ADA in Canada. Since it's a heritage building they don't care about accessibility. Yes, my husband once a month has a daddy/daughter date. They go to different restaurants each time and do any activities she chooses. Smile. Great Asparagus 8788. As a mom of a differently abled daughter I have to say, number one, your sister didn't turn overnight. She's been enabled in her rotten behavior her whole life. Your parents should be ashamed. Your hub sounds awesome though. You don't have to ask permission to turn your back on a dumpster fire. Point out it's on fire and the privileged of you, your husband and their grandbaby's presence will be restored when the fire is out. And then leave. Oop, my parents pay for my sister's big wedding. They did pay for my at-home reception when we eloped as well. They invited everyone, about 14 people, to a restaurant. I talked to them. They said they do love Brad but it's my sister's day and they can't force her to change her mind. Yes, I'm disappointed at them. I just don't understand how you can claim you respect someone yet tell him to stay home. You are not welcome. My husband is used to not being included, so he is okay. I just can't get over it. Mandy Landy, NTA. It's well within her rights to have her wedding wherever she wants. It's also within your rights to decline her invitation because you don't want to exclude your husband. That her fiancé was willing to change venues for the reception but she refused is what makes her the ah. If she cared about your attendance, that would be a great way of having the best of both worlds. Effective 1/2/36. It's also crazy that she'd treat Brad like he had attention-seeking behavior when he's in a freaking wheelchair. I'm glad he wasn't offended and upset by it, but if he was my partner and my sister was acting like this, I'd be furious. Especially since you've been married 6 years. It's not like it's a new relationship. She's more concerned about how op not showing up looks versus how horrible it looks that she excluded her brother-in-law by choosing a site knowing he can't attend. There's no fixing that kind of ugly. Cat soap bar. Wait, so I am not supposed to use my wheelchair for attention? Damn, I bought a bright red one on purpose. People mostly ignore wheelchair users like we don't exist. However, the attention we do get is so much fun. Random strangers asking you for your medical history, demanding to know if you actually need the chair, insisting you do need help, assuming that because your body is broken your brain is as well, etc. ad nauseum. That said, all places used for functions should be wheelchair accessible. If a lot of the medieval buildings in my city can be made accessible, then so can whatever heritage venue this is. A ramp, lift/elevator if required, and an accessible loo is often enough. Up. NTA, your sister however. Update, thank you everyone for your kind words and advice. It's Mother's Day today and of course my husband and my daughter decided to spoil me rotten smile. We went for Mother's Day lunch to my parents. My sister and her fiancé, Bob, his name is Babak, he is Iranian but everyone calls him Bob, came too. Brad, Bob and my dad were in the backyard king and chatting. My mom and my sister were in the kitchen talking. My sister went on and on about her wedding plans. I asked her if there is any possibility that she would consider Bob's suggestion. She can have her civil ceremony, Iranian ceremony, and all her pictures done in her dream venue, then have the reception, which is just dinner, dance and cake somewhere else. I told her it means a lot to me if she makes this accommodation for Brad. My sister lost it. Started screaming that I have always been jealous of her and now trying to ruin her dream wedding. She said I'm jealous because I never had a big wedding and had to elope because I had a kid out of wedlock. I didn't have to. It was our decision to have a stress-free elopement. She also said it was my choice to marry a cripple guy, so why should her wedding plans has to change? My mom told her to stop but she kept on going. I told her then I'm not coming. I told Brad and my daughter that we were leaving. I couldn't stay there anymore. Her entitlement sickens me. Now my parents are mad at me for even suggesting because your sister is under stress. My dad thinks I acted immature by leaving and mom says I overreacted because I'm pregnant and hormonal. I'm so disappointed at my parents too for not standing up to my sister. My plan is to go NC with my sister. I don't even know who she is anymore. So no happy update. I just cut my sister out of my life and will not be going to her wedding. Sorry for typos, I'm very emotional right now. Comments, Ringings 3, save Bob. Your sister is a jerk, and your parents enable and excuse her tantrums. I'd put sister on NC and parents on LC. McGill Hufflepuff, I hope this is a wake-up call for Bob. Given life happens, I wouldn't want to be married to someone who is shitty to disabled people's needs, as disability/more disabilities can happen at any time. Domco Bio, Bob should ask her what would happen if he became paraplegic. Save Bob. Swampy_63, let them be mad. Their loss. Your sister has shown exactly who she is. Bubby. Hopefully your parents will come to their senses and understand why you're not going. Captain Hyena 12, wow, insult your husband, calls him a cripple, take shots at both you and your child for the child being born out of wedlock, and then your parents have the audacity to tell you you're overreacting because you left. What? How the hell does someone even have that much audacity? And this is coming from me, someone who admittedly at times has way too much audacity. Kate Pig 123, how incredibly sad. Sister is a real bridezilla. Dilton Show, Op's sister is being crazy. But her reaction aside, am I the only who agrees moving the entire venue because of a single person is also asking a bit much? Sister is being a bridezilla, but she does sort of have bigger fish to fry than Brad right now. I feel both sides of this situation jump to extremes fairly quickly. I admit I'm not well versed in the logistics of handicap accessibility to old buildings, but there has to be some sort of middle ground here. They can install strategic ramps, and sure, Brad won't be able to go everywhere in the building, but there has to be a way to make it work for a few hours. Difficult Bottle 698, my reading of this is that the building is not at all accessible. Also, accessibility isn't just ramps, it is things like doors being wide enough, disabled toilets and so on. Brad is being excluded from the wedding because of his disability. It is as simple as that. I'm disabled, and when friends of mine have got married, they were looking at venues and decided on them because of the accessibility so I could be a part of it. I've even had friends who, when moving home, part of their decision process is whether or not I can get in. As someone who got married not that long ago, I know how stressful they can be to plan. But you make sure that the people that are going to be there, the people you love and care about most in the world, are going to be there, going to be comfortable and going to have a good time. Super Culture 9114. It seems pretty clear she just doesn't want a cripple at her wedding at all. He would be in the photos, in a wheelchair. The horror. Corm Trisha, NTA. Calling your spouse a cripple and implying your daughter is a bastard. What century is she channeling? Sheesh.